Hey everyone, it's me Tim, and today I'm going to share 5 tips for beginner backpacking for weekend trips. This is like smaller trips, micro adventures kind of thing. So we're going to talk about 5 things that I wish I knew when I first started taking weekend backpacking trips. And the first is to stay simple and light. In other words, you want to pack the bare minimum, just what you need. You don't want to overpack because it's going to slow you down. It's going to wear you out faster, and it's just more clutter. And I just find it so much simpler and more streamlined to just pack exactly what you need. You know, a tent, sleeping bag, sleeping pad. You don't necessarily need a chair, but if you want one, that's obviously an option too. But not only do you want to pack light, but you want to keep things simple. You don't want to go overly complicated. If you're just going out for a weekend, for beginners, maybe plan somewhere between like 8 and 10 miles. Just keep it really simple. Don't overcomplicate things and don't overdo it. If you're only working with just a weekend, you really need to maximize your time as much as possible to get the most you can out of the weekend. So just keep it simple and you'll get a lot more out of it. The next thing I wish I knew is to dial in your gear before you go. I have run into issues in the past with stoves that wouldn't light, and I didn't have a lighter with me, so I know now to carry 2 lighters just in case my stove doesn't want to light. The self-igniting part, you want to make sure that you know how to set your tent up before you get out there, especially if you're working with limited time. You want to make sure that everything runs smoothly and efficiently. Make sure you know how to set up your tent, make sure that your sleeping pad holds air. I've had that happen to me as well, where I went out and my sleeping pad had developed a slow leak. And I would have known that if I had set it up and left it for a while to make sure that it actually worked and held air before I took it out in the field and had to sleep on the cold hard ground. It's also important to remember that unfamiliar gear can lead to frustration on the trail. So just get familiar with everything that you're using and just practice with it before you go out on a weekend trip. And don't get me wrong, a weekend trip is a great place to try new things, but you don't want to completely start from scratch with a new piece of gear. You want to at least have some familiarity with it and make sure that it works. But it's an excellent opportunity on a weekend trip to kind of test things out and see how they work before you go on bigger trips. Next thing I wish I knew is to plan short and realistic trips. As I said earlier, somewhere between 5 and 8 miles, maybe as much as 10 for a weekend trip. If you're just getting started, that's a good place to start. No more than really 10 miles. Then you start getting into like big mile days and for a beginner, it's just not ideal. You can cover a lot of ground in 5 to 8 miles and see quite a bit of scenery and really have quite an adventure. You could do something, say 6 miles day 1, and then Sunday, do 2 or 3 miles, hike out and, go home and get ready for the week. So you can really fit a lot into, 24 to 48 hours backpacking. You don't want to overdo it on your first few campouts. Number 4 is that food and water is crucial. You have to plan this ahead of time, especially out here in the desert. I really need to plan my water carries and figure out, where am I going to be able to filter water, if at all. Do I need to bring enough water for the whole weekend? Usually I try to go somewhere where I know that there's a water source that I can filter so I don't have to carry everything for the whole weekend. But you need to plan this out in advance and do your research. Even if you're heading into the mountains, you want to make sure that you're going to have access to water that you can filter. And you also want to make sure that you have enough snacks, that you have enough dinners, maybe even pack an extra backpacking meal just in case. You get stuck out there for an extra night or something, or you just get more hungry than you thought you were going to. Just make sure that you have enough food and that you plan all of that out accordingly. And pack for calories, not bulk. You want to calorie dense food like Cliff Bars, things like that. It's just important that you plan this stuff ahead of time and go out into the field prepared. And the final thing I wish I knew is that mindset matters more than gear. You need to go into it with the right frame of mind. Confidence and adaptability are just as important as equipment. It's important to get outside even if the trip isn't perfect. This builds experience and passion for backpacking. Most likely you're going out in the wilderness, you're going to challenge yourself. You need to be mentally prepared for that. And exercise those muscles because, the more that you do it, the easier it gets and the bigger adventures you can go on and prepare yourself for. But you just need to go into it with the right frame of mind and also accept that things are going to go wrong. Things are going to possibly get difficult. and embrace that and enjoy the personal growth that comes with that and the confidence boost that you can bring back out into the real world. So mindset is definitely more important than gear. Don't get me wrong, gear is important. You want your necessities, but beyond that, mindset is far more important. So anyways, those are the 5 things I wish I knew before I started weekend backpacking. If this is something that interests you, I actually wrote a book about this called Weekend Wild. It basically tackles, the biggest excuse people have for not going on adventures, which would be not having enough time. It's all about how to maximize your weekends, how to extend your weekends out by taking, leaving on a Friday night through Sunday, so you get a couple extra hours of adventure in. So all of my best tips and tricks for maximizing and creating the most amount of time you can for busy people. So if you want to check that out, I'll leave a link down below. It's available on Amazon as ebook, print, and also as an audiobook, which I'm pretty excited about. So if you want to check that out, I will leave a link down below, and hopefully I will see you over there. And anyways, thanks so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.